This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
So I don't know who struggled more this weekend, us getting up on Sunday after getting back from Toledo so late, or just the entire organization against the Wild organization over this weekend, because we all lost in overtime to them almost by the same score except for the Detroit game. So yeah, I don't know who had it worse.
Did each team blow leads too? Or was it just Detroit?
Doesn't matter.
We all lost. I think that's the key thing to take away there. I guess what a weekend for the Wild organization, and it's just a struggle. There's a couple Iowa teams that like to give Grand Rapids and Toledo both fits. Like, let's be real. The Heartlanders are good. They're really good.
Oh, yeah.
Iowa Wild just are a thorn in our side this season for some reason.
So
and the Minnesota Wild game, yeah, that was a joke. Come on. Blown leads like that back-to-back games. Oh, God, Detroit, don't start doing this to me.
Ghost of Ben Simon invades Grand Rapids.
That's what it felt like, man. Good Lord. Well, welcome back to the Hockeytown West Podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis.
We have a lot to talk about in this week's Grand Rapids Griffins episode. We have 3 games to recap, but breaking news that broke about an hour before we started recording that we've got to talk about first, and that was Ville Husso has been traded to the Anaheim Ducks for future considerations and then immediately assigned to the San Diego Gulls in the AHL. So let's just start with initial thoughts here. I want to go to you first, Nick. Just thoughts on this trade overall.
Happy for Husso to be able to get more playing time, because it seemed like they were really rotating the starts between him and Campbell, between the two of them. So Hus played really well here. He was really nice to everybody, fan side, even media when we were down there. So and he played really well this season. His numbers were there, his stats were there. So appreciate Husso coming down and using his mentorship and getting Kosa, as ready as Kosa can be for next season. Shocked, I guess I would say, that they traded him. He was already halfway there because they took the plane this morning to Texas at 5 a.m. So it was probably another quick plane trip to San Diego. But I'm shocked in the aspect that we didn't get anything back except for future considerations, and who knows when they'll be ready. So if it's a short-term future or a long-time future for this kid. But excited. I'm excited for Hus to go on to play, get some more playing time. And it sounds like they're going to need him right away based off the injuries that are going on. And he won't be going to Anaheim right away with the John Gibson injury. So happy, and I hope he's able to maybe change the scenery, be able to help. Will help him in the NHL. I feel like our Detroit goalies get a bad rep that get set down, and then you saw Ned this year kind of bounce back up. So hopefully we see who's back up in the NHL, and just overall good guy, good vibes.
And like you said too, who's played well here, a 2.70 goals against and a .912 save percentage over 13 games that he's played. I think back to the games in overtime as well, when he'd clutch up big time and make some massive saves in overtime to at least either give us a chance to win or get it to the shootout. It was usually pretty darn good in that too. And like you said, for the person, he was the first guy I ever did a post-game interview with. I wasn't at the first game, so he was the first player I ever got to talk to. And he was patient and could tell we were new, but very understanding, and gave us a lot in those interviews too, and he didn't really have to. I think what I'll remember the most is just the mindset he carried through this whole situation, because a lot of guys could have taken a really negative turn, and he was always positive, So I'm happy for the person in this situation, and it sucks that we won't get to talk to him anymore, but I'm happy for him. But Travis, what do you think?
I'm not really surprised they didn't get anything back. I mean, it's just a cap dump. Really, if you think about it as a whole, you get Gage Alexander for Fabry and Husso as cap dumps. Because if you go back to the other trade, that's kind of how it just worked out. And then the funny thing about it is Gage isn't even playing within this organization. It's just so it's just so weird. But ultimately, I'm happy for him. He's going to probably get to play a little bit more consistently, dress consistently. And you think back to some of the starts he's had in Grand Rapids. He's played well here. He's got good numbers here. So hopefully it can translate for him into San Diego. And I was really shocked. I didn't know if maybe I didn't realize they were so bad, the goals. Like,
Yeah, they're bad.
and then I seen a tweet about them like saying they want to make the playoffs, and I'm like, how in the hell are you going to make the playoffs? You're second to last in your division. Is that one of the divisions that gets like 15
Seven.
teams out of it?
Seven teams from that division make it.
Welcome to the AHL, Travis.
Participation awards all around.
I do want to add one thing. So, like, I am like the way I played it last night for the signings for season ticket members. Like, I ran to him with 12 minutes left because I was like, this is going to be a long line. Because I remember Ned 2 years ago, Ned was a huge line, and then run into Hoos. I was like, if we gotta wait, like, I think the last 12 minutes is gonna be best spent standing here and like waiting for his signature. And I was able to get it, and there's still a couple minutes to spare. And he was super nice in line. And I ran to the other table as the last table I was trying to get, and they were like, "Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 minutes left on the timer." And they're like, "Yeah, we're done for the night." I'm like, So I knew like I had to risk it to go to get Hoos, because I knew like next year there wasn't going to be a chance with him, just based off of like the contract situation. And then for him to be traded tonight, like as I'm leaving work, I saw it. And I'm just like, holy crap! I'm glad I did what I did last night to be able to talk with him. And I don't know if I'll be able to get him back on the show, or like get him on the show. Just, hey, we appreciate you, or said something. So I wish we had a little bit more time to just kind of appreciate him a little bit more and let him know that we appreciated him. I think that's probably the main thing that I wish we were able to do.
I mean, we've pulled crazier miracles before, so you never know.
So, you know what's going to be fascinating about this?
What?
If there's an injury somewhere within the organization, does Gage come back to within the organization to play? Like, is there a reassignment from Reading to either Toledo, Grand Rapids, or does, like, because Talbot and Lyon have both been out this year at points, you know what I'm saying? So, like, not hoping that it happens, but if it does happen, obviously you're gonna pull one of Kosa or Campbell, and then one of Bedsy or Guylander. Like, does Gage come back to Toledo? Like, that was one of the first things that came into my head, because it's such a weird situation.
I mean, there's a potential possibility for it. The first thought in my head was like, okay, at least Sebastian Kosa is going to get a rhythm and a stable workload here. Like, we could talk about this being a cap dump trade, right? And a bunch of Red Wings shows will talk about what that means for the Red Wings, and that's not really our place. But what this will do is it gives us a consistent rhythm between Jack and Kosa. We know which 2 goalies are going to be there, and it's not this guessing game. Is Kosa not even dressing in this game? Is he sitting in the press box watching the game? We at least have that question's gone now. And that's nice, because I feel like with the performance lately, it's a lack of rhythm. And I think a lot of people are asking questions about that. Before we even talked about the games, I kind of wanted to bring that up because it's something I've seen the most on Twitter, and people wondering what was going on with Sebastian Kosa, because the past few results just haven't been what we would expect from Sebastian Kosa, right? Some goals you're like, oh man, you really want those back, and you didn't see those as consistently in the past as we've seen them recently. And I think that all boils down to rhythm, because you think of the last 2 years of his pro career, he knew when he was starting, as the coaches would say, days in advance. It was sometimes Monday he knew he was playing Friday, and he gives him all that time to prepare and get in that headspace. And it's kind of been up in the air lately.
I don't know about that, because I feel like he's been the starter, and they just kind of rotated between Campbell and Husso as the backup. And I think because he's still at 29 games played.
But remember, when we went into the season, the potential for him to be playing 40 to 50 games was there.
He still has that ability to play that many, though. Games remaining are 21.
Yeah.
So he's at 29 games played. He's got 21 remaining. He only has to play 11 of those, so more than half, and he'd be back at over 45, like about 45-ish.
Probably happens.
Right? The math checks.
I mean, it probably does. It probably does happen, but at least it tells us that that's going to happen. It's just I think that consistency piece is going to be big for him. because he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna know more in advance. Because there's
it
some
may-
weekends you get a 3-3, you're like, are we seeing Kos, Husso, Campbell? Are we seeing Kos, Husso, Kosa? Are we seeing Kos, Campbell, Kosa? Like, the guessing game's kind of gone, and he's still going to have veteran support, which is so important for a goaltender his age. But he'll have a rhythm, and like Nick, you've seen it at practice. You know, he's always there practicing, right? But you don't know what other goalie's practicing with you.
That's fair. I mean, the practice time is probably going to be the most important, I feel. I don't know about game time, and maybe that will help boost him a little bit because I'm looking at, like, Campbell's played 8 games and then Husso's played 13. So, I mean, and Jack started like a quarter of the way through the season because he was in the player assistance program. So, I mean, and Husso's been up quite a bit too with Detroit. So, that's why I still think, like, I think Kos was still the main guy. They were riding him, and he's still going to get 40 to 45 games.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying that he wasn't the main guy. I'm just looking at the consistency to help his rhythm because he's struggled lately, and that's there's no brainer to that. He's kind of like the numbers haven't been the same really since his send back from Detroit. I remember Travis pointed that out to us one night off air, and I'm like, it's probably nothing much to read into. You readjust, but that's kind of stayed par for the course since then.
I'll tell you what I don't like about this situation. If he's not going to play, he should back up. He should never be a healthy scratch. That for me is what does it. That is one thing that I did not like at all. And for me, like, it goes back to that consistency thing. I just think that you have a first round pick. What's the point in scratching him in the American League? That's just nonsense if you ask me. And to answer your question, that was December 9th when he made his NHL debut in Buffalo.
I mean, I think you hit it spot on there, Travis. Is like there's a big difference from watching the game from above or sitting on the bench as the backup. Like you're not around the game. You're further away from it. You're cut off. You're out of your routine because even when you're backing up, you're still as a goalie doing your game day routine because who knows, you could end up in net. So to take him out of that rhythm each night, unless he was, behind the scenes doing his things other than skating and warm-ups, maybe, who knows? But at the same time, those are big pieces, and I fully agree with you. There's no game where he should be healthy scratched. Just to have 2 veterans out there, one playing and one sitting on the bench. There's no difference between Husso starting and Jack sitting on the bench than Husso starting and Kosa sitting on the bench. I 100% agree. I'm glad you said that.
And again, this isn't like he's been bad. Like, sure, there's a couple leakers, but some of it's not all on him. Some of it's not. Some of it is.
Kosa hasn't been the problem for this team. There's a lot of problems that have kind of shown their head over the last few months here. And I think it's, his numbers are just kind of a part of that as well. But at the same time, I'm just excited for him to get back in that rhythm consistently. And I think that's going to make a difference. We'll have a circle back at the end of the season and see if that does make a difference, kind of look at the comparison there. But at the end of the day, happy for Husso to hopefully go get some more playing time and get that opportunity to build himself back into the NHL, and happy that the goalie guessing game's kind of over, at least in Grand Rapids for now, barring injuries or anything like that, right? And let's say something does happen injury-wise. Hopefully, God forbid it doesn't, knock on wood here. That also would open the door for the potential to see a goaltender like Jan Bednar maybe get that chance over Carter Gylander this time and see what he's all about in the AHL. I know we've wanted to see it because we don't know what it's going to look like in GR next year. We obviously know that it's probably going to be Talbot, Kosa, and Detroit next year. What's that leave for Grand Rapids? We don't know. But the potential for one of those 2 goalies in Toledo to be here, if not both, who knows, is high. So to see Jan this year potentially would be a real positive for us as well, especially with how fantastic his season has gone in Toledo this year.
And I mean, the only other guy under contract next year outside of Talbot and Kosa is Gylander.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting stuff. I appreciate the Red Wings breaking news before we recorded. Thanks, guys. We seem to have good luck with that most of the time. I know others really struggle with it because Yzerman will break trades at like midnight. And who knows? There still could be one. Who knows? Anything could happen, right? All right, moving on from the Ville Husso trade and all that means for goalies here. There are some other key pieces of the news to talk about with the Grand Rapids Griffins. One was a huge one, a big sigh of relief for a lot of fans, and it was the return of Amadeus Lombardi. He came back for the first game last week that we're going to talk about tonight against Lehigh, But just getting him back in the lineup, Nick, you and I saw him at practice the week before, and we were kind of hoping, maybe asking, hey, is he going to be back this weekend? No, okay, he's not going to be back. Nick has a fun story for a Patreon episode with that question after practice. But
Whoops.
yeah, we learn. Anyways, him returning the lineup's a huge boost. And, if you've listened to the show for long enough, I mean, we covered Ammo when he was playing in the OHL with Flint in his last season there, and he's easily become one of our favorite players. And Nick, I know we've talked multiple times since he's been out, just what a huge boost he's going to be, and just how exciting was it for you to finally see them announce he was going to be back?
I mean, I thought he was going to be the spark for this team, honestly. I mean, his offensive production before he left he was getting to those, I want to say all the way to Flint style at the end, but he was getting those points. They were racking up, and I would have loved to see what he could do for a full season. And it sucks that he was out. And I was excited to see him Wednesday night, and I thought he slotted in at the right spot for a first game back, down on the third line. I thought that was going to be a perfect spot for him, especially with Deuce, because those two had good chemistry before he got taken out of the lineup.
Yeah, I don't think he was going to get back to those Flint numbers right away. That 102-point season his last year is just so freaking amazing. But yeah, to get him back and to put him with Deuce was the smartest decision possible, and that's going to result in one of the goals we're going to talk about here. But you could just tell overall when we watched the team skate that night, it was a difference maker. And there's no I in team, no one person makes a difference. But a player of that caliber, to be able to come back from an injury he's never experienced in his career before and look like he didn't miss a beat. I mean, heck, Nick, how many times did the Lehigh Valley announcer next to us bring up, like, I can't believe it's his first game back in 2 months. This is crazy. He doesn't look like he missed a beat. And for another team's broadcaster to be recognizing that, not just once in the game, but multiple times, being impressed with how he was playing and noticing him, that just tells you the caliber of player he's developed into, and that the potential for him to land with the Red Wings somewhere is definitely there. And, you look at where he was in the draft, and he kind of fell to us being a COVID year draft. And thankfully he did, because this kid's gonna be very special for this organization as time goes on here. And then another piece of news that happens after the weekend's games we're going to talk about. We got to talk about it now, though. Obviously, there was an injury in the Red Wings Ducks game by some player to one guy. And then, of course, Andrew Kopp goes out Saturday. So we knew coming into this week that someone was going to get called up. The question of the day that we were asked by multiple people, who's it going to be? We knew the realistic answer was between Snively and Dries. The fun answer would have been Ammo or Nate, but it was Sheldon Dries. So Sheldon Dries gets the call up to Detroit, will most likely play in their next game too, with how the roster is looking right now. So exciting for him. And I guess, Nick, this is what we can give the fans here. What can fans expect in Detroit out of Dries?
Dries, I mean, he's a responsible two-way player. Right now, he's got 19 goals for us. So leading the team in goals, got 8 assists, 27 points. I mean, he plays really well on the road. So, which is good for Detroit.
Such a weird stat line, but he really does.
He's gonna be in. They'll be on the road, so it's kind of fun to have Ammo or Nate in the conversation. It's good to see Ammo in the conversation with this as well, because he really wasn't there last year. He didn't really have the eyes. People didn't really see it. So it's good to have him in the honorable mention for getting called up this year.
Yeah, it's exciting too. And for fans that don't know, I mean, Dries is responsible forward with a +6 as well on a team that's been allowing some goals recently. So, and he's also sneaky tough. Like, he doesn't back down. He's probably going to bring about the same energy that Dom Shine did, maybe a little less, because Shine had that first NHL call-up boost. But at the same time, you can expect that same kind of play style out of him with a little bit higher offensive upside in the NHL probably.
The other thing too is he's a Michigan guy. So born here in Michigan. Stevie likes his Michigan boys. So kind of interesting to see that they have him, they had Shine, and then they had Watson up there this year too.
Yeah, when you think about being a Michigan guy too, like, what a moment to get called up to play for the Red Wings, right? Like, that's just got to be cool for the for the person itself there. So happy for him. Can't wait to see what he can do up there. Would love to see him get a goal or at least a point while he's up there. And he definitely has the capabilities to do it.
This is what excites me about this. Like, I don't know how long he's going to be up, but he could potentially be a Michigan boy, born and raised, right? And his third game of the year could potentially be in the shoe. Like, that's pretty You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just a cool. I mean, it's a possibility. They said Rasmussen's day to day, so I think, and I do think too that what played a key role in this is that they needed somebody that can play center. Because if it was a winger, you're probably going to see. There's a chance that you see Snively. There's a chance you see Shine or even Carter Mazer with how he's played. And the fact that they needed a center, it kind of pointed to Dries. My dad asked me today, too. He's like, why? And I was like, well, I think they want to keep Nate and Ammo in GR. You know, they're both playing. They've been playing pretty good. They had pretty good weekends. So why kind of ruin that? Just keep them comfortable for now. And if it's short term, why? You know what I mean? Like if it's long term, maybe that's one thing. But for short term, I can understand it. And like I said, you know, in one group message, I think it was the correct call up. With his ability to play center, it made the most sense.
Yeah, the only indication that I got that it could be potentially Snively was like you can move Marco back to wing or back to center. But I think they clearly don't want to separate what's going on in that first line. So it's the right call to make. As much fun as the other ones would be, it's the right call. But that's all the news and updates when it comes to the lineup right now. We don't know if that call-up will result in a call-up from Toledo. I don't think so. Hopefully the couple injured Griffins can get back in because you do have Cross Hanas and Jacob Rakowski out with injuries still. We know they're both close, so maybe potentially you see one of them jump back in the lineup against Texas here in these next two games. If not, you know, Carson Bantle will happily come play here and probably be a human wrecking ball because that's what he does after watching him again in person in Toledo over the weekend. Good God. But let's move into these games here. You have Wednesday's game, Ammo's first game back, Lehigh Valley's first ever appearance in Grand Rapids. And this game did not go how we thought it would going into it. The one stat line that's got to be talked about heading into it is the Griffins outshooting Lehigh Valley 41-25 in this game. Now remember that when I tell you the final score was Lehigh Valley 5, Griffins 2. Yeah, we got goalied big time. Gahagan in net for Lehigh. Unbelievable saves throughout this game. So let's jump into the scoring. Lehigh Valley, four of their goals consecutively to start this game off here. One in the first, one in the second, two in the third. The Griffins finally do answer back. Nate Danielson gets a goal there at the 12-minute, 10-second mark, his fifth of the season from Rafferty and Shai Bouillon. Love a Bouillon assist in the mix there. At that point, we're like, okay, we got one. Maybe something will happen here. And just 2 minutes later, Alexander Doucette gets his seventh of the season from Amadeus Lombardi, a point in his first game back. And Tim Gettinger gets a secondary assist on that. And all of a sudden, it's a 2-goal game. And I'm like, what do we got one of these miraculous third period comebacks the Griffins are pretty well known for at this point. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it going. A lot of opportunity there late in the third. 19 shots total in the third period. But Gahagan stands on his head multiple times there. Lehigh adds an empty net goal, and that's all she wrote in this one. The Griffins go 0 for 1 on the power play and never had to kill a penalty. They were well disciplined in this one, and Lehigh Valley's power play stayed off the ice. With watching some of the speed from those players in this game, I'm kind of glad they never got a power play opportunity, honestly. They probably would have converted because there was some highly skilled players in this Lehigh team that really don't reflect the record that they have right now. But as we mentioned, Gahagan, 39 stops out of 41 shots there. At the other end, Sebastian Costa stopped 20 and 24. Nick, thoughts on this game?
The weird thing that I just noticed that 4 out of 5 of these goals were unassisted. Like that's super odd. I don't know if I've ever seen that. But Gahagan stood on his head, made a ton of stops. 40 something, right?
No, it was 39 stops.
39 stops in this game. I mean, even the guy next to us was just the play-by-play guy next to us was just going crazy on Gahagan. So it was a lot of breakaways. It was a lot of they were cheating for offense. Really, is what GR was trying to do. Being in this rut, a lot of bad, sloppy. Couldn't keep it in at the blue line, and then off to the races to the other way. So it was just a very weird game, to be honest. If you outshot them 41-25, 4 unassisted goals, no power play chances for Lehigh. It's just a weird game, like an anomaly. Like it's kind of like a one-off one that you just kind of put it in the corner away,
I like their start. I thought
The
they
Griffins start
started
or Lehigh
really-
start?
the Griffins. I thought, because I got to actually watch some of this game, I thought they played pretty well in the first period pretty early. They were getting chances. They just couldn't convert. Like you said, they kind of got goalied, but I thought initially off the rip, they had a pretty decent start.
They did. I think something at one point it was just deflating, and then it was
It's
just
when
like,
they fell behind.
Yeah.
That's been a trend. When they give up that goal, it's like for whatever reason they just sink. And I don't know why, but I mean the fight at the end of the game was good to see. I mean they started a battle back. I thought they were almost going to come back and tie that game, because it was like once the first one went in, they had so much momentum.
yeah,
So I think one thing that I noticed in this game that I could take away is like they got to get on the board first.
yeah.
They have got to score first, because I feel like when they don't score first, the vibe is so low. Like
And that goal, too, came late in the first. There was 13 seconds left on the clock. Or sorry, there was
Yeah,
5 seconds left on the clock.
that's really deflating.
Yeah.
I think, and I tweeted it out over the weekend. They're like 9-0-2 when they score first leading after the first.
Yeah, that's kind of the stat that tells the story Travis just said right there. Like they got to score first because the vibe stays high. And when you let in a goal with 5 seconds left, that's immediately deflating. But you hope you get in the locker room and bounce back and come out and have a good second period. And that goal, too, just looking back at it, just glance at the replay real quick, just a turnover in the neutral zone, and they were able to walk in. You had a 2-on-1, and he didn't take the pass, took the shot, and it was a great shot. But at the same time, it is very deflating when that happens. I had to go back and just kind of look at some of these goals here because, like you said, Nick, these unassisted goals, it was kind of weird, right, to see that many there. But it's a lot of these odd man rushes. The Albos goal, he just blew past Torridello out there, which was, I mean, the wheels on that kid were insane all game long.
Kid was fast. He outskated him. I was like, holy crap, where did this kid come from?
The Fury goal was like an odd man rush too that he just
It was
shot.
a 2-on-1. It was almost a carbon copy of the first goal looking back at it now.
Yeah.
That's frustrating there. But like you said, Trav, the fight at the end was good to come back, to try to come back like that. You know, you see the first goal and you're like, maybe. And then the play by Lombardi to find Doucette there. One, Tim Gettinger, great on the forecheck to get the puck to Ammo. But Ammo just gets the puck. He can't make the shot. Notices Deuce open in the slot. Does a little turn, kind of blinded back pass to get it to Deuce. And you leave Alexander Doucette open in the slot. You're probably going to have a bad time. And it was just great to see that chemistry between those two click that fast after Ammo missing so many games. Like that goal was sick.
They need cross back. They got to get that line back together.
They really do, man. That line, when they were playing, they were buzzing. But that's really the final thoughts of this game here, unless you guys had something else special to add to this. But a 5-2 loss when you come back home and you have 3 games at home in a row. You're hoping to just kind of get something going again when you're in this rut. It was tough.
I think the thing for me that you kind of seen at the next game too, Nate scores almost a goal on like a harmless shot, like a low percentage chance of going in. But I think that kind of gave him a little bit of confidence. Like you see the puck go in, and then obviously we'll get into the next game. But like for him to get a goal like that, and like you said, I mean, it just gave him a spark. So it's good to see him kind of get on the score sheet again and just know that like a fluke goal can do so much for somebody, which we'll get into in the next game. That was one thing I wanted to point out from this game.
It was good for Nate too, coming into this game, points in back-to-back games. And then he gets makes it a 3-game stretch and gets a goal and ends a really long goalless streak that he had going too. So you can see the confidence kind of building there. And as for gameplay, like we said, not much more to add, but I do want to talk briefly about our post-game experience in this game, because we did something we normally don't do. We asked for the assistant coach post-game, and that was Steph Julian, who in charge of the power play, runs a lot of the offense on this team. And at this point, after this game, 1 for 31 against their opponents in the last 31 power play attempts. So you kind of have to ask for the coach that's in charge of that at that point. And a good almost 5-minute long interview with him. He was kind of grilled in this one, not just by us. Friend of the show, Elaine Shercliffe, had her questions. We kind of let her run that one. Once she got going, it was kind of hard to stop her because her questions were really good. But I think, Nick, you and I both had the same feeling when we walked away from this one, and it was frustrated.
Yeah, they don't typically like to open up to us. They don't really give us much, and what they do, it's not what we see. So we're always kind of shaking our heads on the way back and scratching it, like, are we seeing the same thing they're seeing? Where are we off? He said he did. He's been in contact with Alex Tenge of the Detroit Red Wings to try to see what they do. They can't do a complete copy paste, is what he said, which makes sense. You can't put, the talent is definitely different here compared to up there. We don't have a Larkin, a Raymond, a Patrick Kane. Um, these guys are gonna hopefully develop into something, to that skill point. But it's frustrating because we've gone this long without it. It seems like nothing's working. They've put two defensemen out. They put five forwards up the other night, I believe, on the power play. It just nothing's going in. They're just not being able to generate the chances, the high danger shots. It's just blah. They're having trouble. I think just keeping it in is probably the biggest thing that you've noticed, and then just getting set up in that offensive zone. So
Yeah, I will give credit for creativity from one thing from this game that we noticed is that when they pulled the goalie, it was six forwards. There was no defenseman. So like the pressure to build up and get back into this game and try to actually tie this thing, they definitely had a sense of urgency around it. And that's something I don't think I've seen them do before. Maybe I just haven't paid attention to it, but to go that route, it was definitely interesting and different to see. But yeah, it was frustrating to just kind of hear the responses around the power play with how bad it was. I don't want the mood around it to be doom and gloom, but it kind of felt a little happy-go-lucky, a little too happy-go-lucky for me. But at the same time, we got to remember with Steph, there is a little bit of a language gap. If we probably interviewed him in French, the interview responses were probably very different. So we will give him credit where credit's due there. But there was some positive interviews even during this stretch that we did after this game. We called two of the youngest guys in the team to post-game. You called Nate Danielson and Amadeus Lombardi. Obviously, Ammo, you got to call him to post-game, first game back, see how he's feeling. But I feel like both of them answered the questions about the tough stretch the team is in with really good answers that showed the leaders that they're both developing into. And I know, Nick, you and I both just very impressed with what both of them had to say, especially, Ammo, first question, his response being, I felt like I have a lot more to offer to this team than what I did tonight. And I think we both kind of looked at each other in our head going, this first game back, kid, calm down. Your first game back playing third line and you thought you had more to offer. Like, I understand, but don't beat yourself up too hard. But the rest of the answers were really positive, and if you're a fan, it was good to hear that it's not doom and gloom even in this stretch, because a lot of teams could fall into this rut and be there for a while, and it gave that vibe of they're going to pull themselves out of this.
yeah, I mean, they sounded like 10-year veterans in there. Like, this is
beyond their years.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, and I don't feel like it was like media answers either. I think they were really speaking from the heart and from the mind, and I don't think there was any fluff there. I think what they were saying is what they truly believed, and it really, like watching Ammo and Flint, watching him last year, and we've talked with him twice. Like it seemed very mature, the answers that they both gave. And Nate is. Sometimes he gives them some short answers and then in post games, and I've seen in some interviews too with him, and they're kind of short, but he really opened up and really, really said what he was feeling for this team in the spot that he is. And we try to be positive just because that's who we are down there when we're like, and just our background, and it's like, hey, you scored tonight, and he's like, yeah, but the team didn't win. Like we get that, but it was helpful towards the team and towards the play is, getting the goal. And, he really puts team first. A lot of these guys do, which is, it's good to see,
Yeah, you don't have to be currently wearing a letter on this team to be a voice. Like even in our interview with Cross Hanas, he mentioned Nate as one of the voices in that room, even in being his rookie year. So it's really impressive for him. And like you said, he's very quiet most of the time in interviews. He doesn't give a lot. He's not the loudest guy in the world for sure. But we both walked away after that one going, I don't have to play with the audio from this interview. He spoke up. He was being passionate about what was going on. And it was a good feeling. It was kind of that reassurance from the fan side of things in my brain to go, okay, yeah, some of us can hit the panic button, but the team and the players aren't necessarily hitting that panic button yet. And they do have firm belief that they can get back to their winning ways and get back to the team they were at the beginning of the season. And at the end of the day, like we always say, It doesn't matter until playoffs, right? As long as you get in the tournament, as Travis would say, don't matter. So at least there's that hope and the good vibe there, and they know they got to do more, and they know there's problems, but it made me feel good, and I was just very impressed by those two young guys.
It surprised me.
It,
oh, go ahead, Trev.
I mean, just watching it, like watching those back, I mean, not being in the room and feeling the vibe like you guys have, you could tell that it was like from the heart.
It was, and like the thing that surprised me was when Cross said like Nate, he's a voice in the locker room, and I'm like, really? Okay, like that just kind of threw me off because of how how young he is, and then how quiet he has been in media, and then you get that answer, and you're like, oh, okay, I see where this is coming from. He kind of put on the captain hat there and gave us a good talk. So I don't know, I was fired up afterwards.
Right? Yeah, same here. I was ready for Friday's game, even though I wasn't going to be there. But before we dive into Friday's game, let's hit the ad break. We've had a lot to talk about before an ad break today, so we're going to hit that. When we come back, we'll recap Friday's game, recap Sunday's game, and dive into a few more fun topics with this team.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. A game's left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. All right, let's dive into Friday's game here and talk about a Griffins win. Oh, God, that feels good to say here. Griffins end up winning this game against Lehigh Valley Friday, 5-4. But heading into this game, there were some lineup changes. And obviously, it was Amo's first game back on Wednesday, and he was third line. They played it right, put him, ease him back in. Friday's game, right back up to that first line there with Carter Mazur and Joe Snively. And that's exactly how these situations should be handled. The player's out for that significant amount of time. You don't just plop him into the first line. I think maybe they learned when they did that with Mazur for the first game when he came back and then shuffled him back down the lineup. So it was good to see it handled right. And it was also, just nice to see that line back together. To see Amo playing with a guy like Mazur and Shine. That's just a great combination of players there. So we were happy with that. And there was other changes throughout the lineup too, but we won't bore you with that. So diving into the game, and the way it started off, I was like, oh God, here we go. Lehigh Valley scores 2 minutes, 23 seconds into this game, and I was luckily at least listening to it in the car and just instantly just facepalm. Like, what are we doing here? But, good old Nate Danielson comes around to the 13-minute, 16-second mark and at least ties up the game there, gives me the hope there. Unassisted goal by Nate. A really, really nice shot by him as well. This is the Nate that people expected in this one.
Funny thing is, he scored from almost that exact spot on Wednesday. He just went to a different part of the net on Friday. He went left side. Wednesday night, he was right side.
It's sometimes you just got to shoot the puck, right? And magic happens. But this shot was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was.
I wonder if everybody was in the building yelling "shoot" like they did for Andre.
Oh, poor Andre. Oh, man. Let's talk about Andre Becker because that wasn't the only Griffins goal of the first there. Andre Becker, 16-minute, 20-second mark on the freaking power play. Let's go. Assisted by Austin Watson and Dominic Shine here. And this wasn't his only goal of the night. In the second period, on the power play again, he gets his 5th goal of the season, second of the night, from Austin Watson again and Antti Tuomisto in this one. 2 power play goals from a team that previous to this game was 1 for 31 on the power play. From the newest rookie on the team when you look at games played here. Like, what a freaking night for him. I did not see these goals, have not looked back at them. I need your guys' breakdown on this.
Go, Travis. You break it down beautifully.
Yeah, Becker's goal it's Becker, right?
Yep.
Is that how you say it? Okay, so Becker, power play goal, and it was great puck movement. And the 2 power play goals that he scored were complete polar opposites of how they were set up. This one, low to high with a little high cycle play, kind of similar to like what they do with Hawkins, how they have a guy kind of swoop around and then they get the puck and then they shoot.
Wait, you mean there was movement?
Well, I mean like do the little button hook and then he picks the puck up. That's the first thing that came to my head when I seen the replay. I was like, oh, that's like literally what Toledo does with Hawkins, but I think it was with Shine, if I'm not mistaken. You'd have to tell me on the assist.
Yeah, you got it.
And then, I mean, really, it's just great net front presence, right? Like, he's right there for the rebound. And this is where I've said, like, in the past, like, you see a lot of guys miss the net or try to pick a corner, and you got to make the goaltender make a play, right? And when he makes a play, if there's a rebound right there, you got to have that net front presence. And there were 2 guys right there, but Becker was right in front of the net, landed right on his stick, and he just made no mistake with burying it. So that was what stood out to me as a little, like, low to high play, and then a shot that gets through, like we've talked about before. If you're going to run low to high and shoot from the point, you got to get pucks through. Then you got to crash the net for rebounds. I think I've said this multiple times on this show, like, let's simplify here. Let's get pucks to the net, bodies to the net, and good things happen. And in this instance, you score on a rebound. I mean, we've said it how many times, like, can we get more bodies to the net? Like, them high danger areas, you got to go to the net to score goals. Scoring goals from distance is a very difficult thing to do. And sometimes with like the kind of rut that the Griffins are in, you need some of these pick up the trash goals just to kind of get you some momentum.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just good to see kind of the power play looking a little different. I don't know if Wednesday's interview scared him into changing some things up or what, but it was just good to see different looks. And it was just really good to see Andre Becker, who, you know, when he was put on the power play for the first time, scored a goal in that game. And that was one of those power plays that we've talked about where we've seen them do a lot of movement and run plays like this in that game. And then it disappeared for a while. And you see it brought back in this game. You're like, okay, like they could really utilize this kid on the power play. He's a really good weapon to have out there and really smart with his decision-making in that scenario. So I was really happy to see not just 1, but 2 power play goals from him and see him finding the back of the net again, because it felt like he went a little quiet there for a moment. And you know that these 2 goals were massive, massive confidence boosters for him.
Well, you talk about the Red Wings power play and how they talk with Tanguay, right? You mentioned that in the first like recap of the first game. If you watch this second goal back that Becker scored, Dylan Larkin scored quite a few goals like this year.
Yep.
Puck high to low, and then you just got to kind of go from net front to find that soft spot in their box and that they're running. And like you got too high, too low. Some teams running diamond, some it's more of a box figure. And he was standing on the hash, like towards the net, and just kind of bumped out to the hash mark, and they found him. I was like, when I seen that replay, I was like, oh, that's a Dylan Larkin goal. So when you say that, you know, he talks to Tanguay, like clearly there's some like points and like minor pieces that you see that visually you're like, okay, yes, this is what the Red Wings have done in the past. So that's kind of a good piece that, you know, you pointed out earlier that they do that. And, you know, when it works, it looks just like it. But that's one thing I noticed on both of his goals.
I just felt like when he said it at that time, I hadn't seen it. And then, and maybe it was because I wasn't looking for it. And when he said it, it was like, all right, I'm looking for it now. And then I saw it and it worked. And I'm like, he wasn't running. I don't feel like he was running this before, because there's no way with the way Becker had scored those 2 goals, like that wouldn't have happened the other 29 times or 31 times. So it's just, you know, I love the puck movement. I love where they were at. It just we need to do it more consistently. And I was happy for Becker too, because I think that was the night of his birthday, or his birthday was the next night. So It was just like a little kickoff to the celebration. Go from there, you know. I don't think he's old enough to drink yet, so I don't know if
it was his 21st birthday. Actually.
Okay, so he was able to go out and drink. So I was like, maybe in his country, but not here. But he was able to drink, so that's good for him. Hopefully, the boys treated him well.
It's like a credit to Waddy too for going to him in the shootout, because when you're feeling it like that, I mean, hey, if he's hot, let him go, and he made the most of that opportunity.
Yeah, so this game does go to a shootout too, which is the unfortunate part here. Lehigh Valley gets another goal in the second and answers back with 2 more in the third. to take a lead. But a Griffin that we're not used to seeing score a lot of goals, Captain Clutch, we'll call him in this game since he is the captain of the team. Josiah Didier ties the game up with at the 6 minute 58 second mark of the third, shortly after Lehigh Valley had taken a lead too. But Dids gets this goal from Mazer and Vero, and we've talked about Didier's shot on this show before. It's not the hardest shot in the world, not by any means, but this goal looked different.
This was a freaking laser, literally from the point. And this is when we were at practice. This is what they were practicing. That's what he was practicing afterwards with the skills trainer. And I wish I was able to ask him a little bit more at practice, but I asked him last night. I was like, "We saw the same thing in practice, and you nailed that from where you were at." So, super impressed. I was happy to see it go in, especially from him, because that shot looked very different from what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, it did. Just watching it back, even on the screen next to me right now, it's a laser, like you said, a beautiful rip, and boy, was he hype after that goal too. Didier's not the most emotional guy unless he's beating the crap out of somebody out there, but to see him let that out and get the good celebration in there, almost kind of knees the linesman as he's going for the leg kick there. But yeah, good for Dids to get this game tied up. Game goes to overtime, and a little bit of an active overtime. Griffins get 5 shots, Lehigh Valley gets 2. No goals. You go to the shootout, and like Travis alluded to, Andre Becker, who was really good, as we've been told, in junior in the shootout, he gets his opportunity out there and doesn't miss. Joe Snively also had an opportunity, and he scored as well. Amadeus Lombardi failed to convert on his, and it came down to the goaltender making a save in this one, and Ville Husso does. And his, last game as a Griffin at this point, makes the save there. Griffins get the win. Husso stops 35 of 39 in this one. At the other end, Gahagan ends up stopping 28 of 32. Not the same Gahagan we saw the other night, but the Griffins were able to kind of learn from what their mistakes were on Wednesday night and capitalize and take advantage of, kind of what they saw, the saves he was making that night. And this is my favorite thing to say. The Griffins power play goes 2 for 6 in this game. Oh, God, it feels good. Our penalty kill goes 4 for 5. It's just good to walk away with a win in front of the third sellout crowd of the season as well. I'm sure that place was rocking when all this was happening. I'm sad I wasn't there for this one, but we all joked that, I finally miss a game and they win. So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem, folks.
I want to point something out in the shootout too.
Yeah.
Snively's goal, he does the same thing every time, and it's so effortless. And he's a left shot coming down the left side and just shoots at 5-hole. He did it in Cleveland when I was there. He did it in Cleveland when I was there, and I want to say it was against Colorado he did it when they won that game in a shootout. And then this game he did it again in the shootout. So, and you got to avoid the paddle and going down. It's a tougher shot than you'd think.
It's good that a lot of goalies that we seem to play against lately have loose 5-holes. So, sorry. Anyways. And, Becker's goal was also really nice in the shootout. Ammo's attempt was also really good. It's kind of a surprise it didn't go in, but at the same time, a Griffins win is a Griffins win. And God, that one felt good to bounce back from Wednesday's game. And it kind of just, you felt like the vibe was different. You hoped it would build into something different than we've seen. And you go into Sunday's game and you walk away with a 3-2 loss in overtime. So, hey, we got a point out of it. We'll start there. We got a point, and I'm happy with that. But this was a game that the Griffins had to claw their way back into. Iowa kicked off the scoring 17 minutes, 45 seconds into the game. They added another one shortly after that on the power play. The worst power play in the league converts back-to-back times against us, or back-to-back games, I should say. In the last 3 games we've played them, they've gotten a power play goal against us. So that is unfortunate there. Scoring in this one, Amadeus Lombardi got his 10th of the season, his first goal back from being injured, and it was just kind of a weird goal where he just threw it at the net, and it bounced off of somebody, not a Griffin. We thought it might have been Carter Mazur's goal, but he didn't touch it apparently. It ends up going in. You don't ask how, you ask how many. You're happy that he just decided to throw the puck at the net, and magic happened. And then Sheldon Dries gets his 19th of the season from Carter Mazur. And at least that brings us to overtime. It's unfortunate that we do lose in OT. I felt like that was kind of a soft goal by Kosa to give up there at that point in the game. I didn't like it. I think he could have made that save most of the time, but hey, bleep happens, right? So you walk away with this, you got a point, you're happy. I'm going to bring up this one stat, though. And this just made me scratch my head in frustration. We talked about going 2 for 6 in the power play Friday night, and you go 0 for 6 against the worst penalty kill in the league. What? Why? Nick, you were at this game physically. I know I watched it on TV. What did you see from a fan's perspective? Because you got to enjoy this game as a fan for once this season. What did you see on the power play? Did we just revert right back to what we were doing before, you think, or what?
Yeah, we struggled setting up in the offensive zone the entire game. I mean, we had 40 shots on net. This is another game where we outshoot our opponent, and we just can't get them to bury. And it was a Costa versus Wallstedt, matchup. So you're like, oh, this is going to be a classic. And it was.
It kind of was, but.
Yes. But, yeah, I mean, we just struggled, really, to stay in that side. It felt like a lot of the time it was just them getting down there and it was just clearing the other way. So I felt like there wasn't a good flow to it. I mean, there was a lot of penalties too, which kind of took the start and stop. The other thing too, this was a sensory game, so like the sounds, the horns, everything was off. So you really had to dial it in for somebody like me to be able to watch it.
Oh God!
But I mean, because my biggest thing is I listen to the game. I listen to the sounds, and I listen to it more than I watch. But yeah, I thought a lot of times puck was being cleared into our own end, and we were trying to gain that momentum, or the puck was in our defensive end. And it was tough to get out of it. So
I want to bring up Dries' goal. This was such a weird goal. Like Mazur goes to shoot the puck and his stick just shatters.
There was a lot of broken sticks in this game. A ton of broken sticks.
The puck's going towards the front of the net. And Snively should get an assist for this because he lifts a guy's stick and it goes right underneath his stick, right to Dries, who made a great move to the backhand. If you can pull that up and watch it, like I noticed it and I went to watch it again and I'm like, did Snively lift that dude's stick and the puck just seemingly went right underneath? And then I was like, yeah, it did. Like that 100% happened. Because I thought when I read the tweet that we had posted, like that the stick went flying out of his hands, I was like, did he break it or did he just like have a what the hell moment? And then I realized that he did break his stick because if you look in his left hand, the other part of the shaft is still in his hand. I just thought it was a funny, it was just one of them weird plays.
The weirdest assist of Carter Mazur's career, easily. And yeah, it broke at a weird point too, because it was like up in the higher part of the stick where it snapped. I'm like, how the heck does that happen? But heads up play by Snively to make that stick lift happen. And then again, Dries just picking it up, go backhand as Wallsted's diving for it. It's just a nice move, a veteran move right there in that moment, not panic and look for a pass or something stupid, just to make a move happen and, put it over the goalie. But yeah, Mays, credit for weirdest assist of his career and maybe weirdest assist of the season in the American League so far. We'll have to make an award show at the end of the season and make sure that's in the running there.
I think too, with this game is we got really lucky because there was a lot of post hit as well. Like strange things of sticks all over the place, but also the Iowa hit the post quite a bit in that second period, and this game could have been blown open a little bit more, and we were lucky that it wasn't.
Yeah, Gauntz had 6 opportunities in this game, and I think 4 of those 6 hit the post, 1 hit the back of the net, and 1 he shot a mile wide. 1, he's a good player, but 2 at the same time. We were thanking the post in this game. I'm sure Sebastian Kosa owes the post a drink after that one.
Well, the one thing I noticed in this game is that Grand Rapids needs to do what Toledo does at the end of morning skate, which is try to break your stick on purpose. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't. Or next time, do it because you throw a change up and lift a guy's stick and you get a weird assist. That was just a little tidbit for Thursday to talk about that kind of could work its way into this. But that's just one thing that, it was just that whole play was so because Mazur fell down.
It was so weird. I saw him fall and I'm watching it on TV and I'm like, oh, what a chance. And then it goes in. I'm like, what the F just happened here? I'm not complaining, but it was a strange one. It's a fun highlight. And again, it's unfortunate to drop this game, but let's talk about the good, bad, the ugly from these last 3 games. And the good thing is we did take 3 of the 6 points. while you're in a rut, at least getting half the possible points is still a positive feeling. You're tied for second in the division with Texas right now, with heading into Texas, 2 big games coming up. But at the same time, to at least that just shows you're finding your way back into your game, right? You're finding the way to at least pull some points out. And again, it could have been an easy 2 points on Wednesday night if we didn't get goalied. I still think if it's a different goaltender, he has a slightly off night, that's a different result at the end of that game, which is the frustrating part. But three out of the 6 points with the way they've been playing, I will take that if you're talking about a small increment size of games here.
I'll add a different good. I would say for these 3 games, there's Amadeus. I mean, coming back, getting a goal. I think he sent an assist as well.
Yep, goal and an assist in his first 3 games back.
I mean,
so right back on his pace that he left off on, essentially.
I thought that was great for the team. And hopefully it sparks us for some more goals.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you gotta love the effort, right? I mean, like you said, you put a lot of shots up Wednesday. You put a lot of shots up. What was it, Sunday? They had a bunch, and like you said, you get 3 of 6. So it's clearly starting to maybe kind of find some rhythm here. Now, obviously, Nick, you've brought up a few times during the panic smash button segment that there's some big 4-point games. These are. I'll let you kind of elaborate on this, but here's your 4-point games, these next 2.
I circled this on the calendar 3 weeks ago. It was Texas right here, and we're going in tied, and we just lost Sheldon Dries up to the Red Wings.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think about, what this does for the younger guys in the lineup. It just gives them more opportunity to come out and show. Like, this is the time for them to make that statement. You lose a veteran guy like that, some guys are going to get more opportunity. The team's going through a little bit of a rut. Now is a time to really step up and show that next man up mentality. And I think we could surprise ourselves with these games here. I have high hopes for them. I know they're going to be tight, tough battles, but I feel like these 2 games could be the true turning point of the season right now for this team. And I mean, yes, 2-7, 1-0 in your last 10 isn't great, but Texas, when we played them last, was like 9-1 in their last 10. They're 5-3, 2-0 in their last 10 now. So I think things are starting to stabilize there. And I think these 2 games, it's unfortunate that they're weekday games because they're probably going to be must-watch TV at this point with how these games could shape out. Now, I could be proven wrong and it could be terrible and we could have a really disappointing recording later on about these 2 games, but got a good feeling. The bad part of the segment, the good, bad, and the ugly here, the bad, our neutral zone play is awful. When you're talking about that ability to set up and get established in the zone, it really starts in winning your neutral zone battles. And you look back at the Lehigh game Wednesday, some of those odd man rushes that ended up happening, it was just lost battles in the neutral zone there. We've got to figure out how to clean it up, because if we can start winning battles there, I feel like we can win a lot of games.
Do you think
some of the games that we might not need, like we shouldn't win, we could probably turn around and win those games?
Do you think it's face-offs in the neutral zone where we're struggling? Because what I think Elaine was talking about it is like we're really good on the offensive side for face-offs, and then we're not real good in the defensive side. I think that's how she explained it.
It was more the lack of the face-off battle, like not the straight up wins, right? The ones that turn into battles between the 2 centers. It's the guys in the flank not really coming in for support, and I think that's where we really need to see an increase in action there when you're talking about your wingers on the face-off. I think that'll help a lot. If we can figure that out, that would change a lot in the neutral zone, but at the same time, I think it's just clogging up lanes and getting smart with the plays there, and maybe not always just as soon as the puck's in your stick looking for that pass. Maybe make the guy make the first move and make him miss. Like, there's a lot of different things they could do when you're talking neutral zone play, but I think that's a key that's bad right now that needs to be turned around.
I would agree, and I think that's something that's lacking. It's like where you just don't have, especially when Ammo was out, you don't have those skill guys like you did last year with Simon, who would go through the neutral zone, and like Dika guy or Bergie, who would do that as well, and Marco as well as be able to go through with those guys. So I'd have to agree with you on that point, Brandon.
I mean, Ammo's kind of the guy that could, he's got that playmaking skill and the speed that
Yeah.
you know he could kind of carry it through that neutral zone probably a little smoother than some. You know, Nate's probably got that playmaking ability as well. I think it's just, you know, like you said, you got to clean it up a little bit. As far as the faceoffs go, I definitely would agree with you, Brandon. Like, if you're going to be in a tie-up situation, you need guys coming in to help out your center. You need that secondary support on winning faceoffs. So, I mean, that's a very key talking point.
Yeah, and it's not like our centers are that bad. Like, we have some guys in this team who are really good in the dot. I mean, you look at the lineup, and Seeker's been playing wing throughout some of these games, but he's been taking the draws and then shifting back over to wing because he's clearly that good at the faceoff. But yeah, they're really good at winning some, and then they're also really good at tying guys up. It's just the lack of support from the sides there. So I think that's one thing that I would look to pay attention to in these next couple of games to see if you see any improvement there. Because I know, you know, even Steph talked about, you know, playing in the neutral zone, and I know that's been a talking point of Dan Watson in the past too. So we'll see what happens. Not a lot of practice time between Sunday's game and Tuesday's game. I think they have a morning skate in Texas, and that's it. So not a lot of time to work on things that you wanted to improve from Sunday's game. Hopefully it's not a crazy skate with this travel that they had, and hopefully they can be well rested for these games, because these are going to mean a lot to what the season, or where you end up at the end of the season. I know this team will make the playoffs still, but these two games could be the difference of the first round, as the AHL calls it, but it's the play-in round. It's the best of 3 series that they do. So I don't want to be there.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario. But once you're in, and we've got a kind of a different roster at that point too. So I want to bring up, I don't know if we should throw this in bad or ugly, but it's the breakaways off of the penalty, like the guys coming out of the penalty box.
The breakaways from the other team after our power play.
Yep. Okay. We saw this I think I saw this 4 times this weekend over the 3 games. Is that guy? It was like literally the last, and I saw it yesterday too in Iowa. That guys coming out and they're getting the puck and they're going right on our goalie, like by themselves. So it's a weird trend. I don't know why, and it's not just like one team has exploited it. It's now I've seen it against 2 different teams on 3 different games where they're getting that last second guy coming out of the box and breaking in on us.
This problem reared its head for the first time actually last Wednesday against Springfield the week before. That's the first game we saw that, and I know Coach Watson brought it up in the post game. You know, he's like, we got to be better about clock awareness on the power play. But yeah, now we've seen that for 6 games almost straight, where the other team, they get puck possession right at the end of the power play, shoot it up ice to the guy hopping out of the box, and you got to count on your goalie to make a big save there. And that's unfortunate timing sometimes.
And it's not going to be good if we can't fix it before we play Rockford like 8 times for the rest of the season, because of how well they do, like how tough they are, and getting us going into the box, and we haven't been able to convert on the power play. Rockford's a good power play team, or a penalty kill team. So it's one thing. It's like, all right, take note of this. This could rear its ugly head even more if we don't fix this before we play Rockford as many times as we do for the rest of the season.
Did you say
you can't
8
clean
times? 8 times.
Yeah, we still play them like 8 times.
Yeah.
And there's 20 games left? Like 22 games left?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, you'll probably, if we can't get that problem fixed, you'll probably see Rockford come in with drawn up penalties for Andreas Anthony to come out of the box and go flying down the ice. Honestly. Like, yeah, that's a big problem. That could go in the ugly. I was going to say the power play overall goes in the ugly, so I'm glad you added a point to it. But yes, we saw 2 power play goals. That's great Friday. The team is now 3 for 43 in their last 43 attempts. It's still not great. Not even good. It's
Baby
bad.
steps.
It's ugly.
Baby steps.
I would call it baby steps if it was like, okay, we saw 2 that night, and yes, you had 6 opportunities again against Iowa Sunday and failed to convert in any of those 6. It's like, okay, was this just a flash in the pan, or what are we doing? So the power play still is ugly, and it goes in the ugly section of the good, bad, and ugly from this week.
What were they total for the whole week? Like
2 for 13.
2 for 13
on the power play. Just Becker's 2 goals that one game.
So kind of hovering about what they were their average was for quite a while, which was like 15-16%.
Yeah, we saw it almost creep up to the 20s there for a minute, and then never got over that plateau, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, 3 for 43 in the last 43 attempts. It's bad that I have a running tally at this point. That's how you know it's bad. That's how you know it's ugly.
Well, it's just a thing to monitor, right? I mean, like, we've said it before. You're not going to win games in the postseason if you can't score on the power play.
That's what killed us in the series against Milwaukee last year.
It really is. I mean, I know I really started to watch them in the postseason last year quite a bit and down the stretch, and that was one thing that last year I noticed is, like, they get the power plays. Like, man, they could really benefit from a goal here, and it's like they just never got it. And it's like, man, guys, like, man, if you score 2 or 3 power play goals in that series more than what they did, they're in the conference finals. Like, it's just that's the difference. It's so small that time of year, so you're going to have to kind of figure that out to convert, especially going through your division, right? Which makes it tougher because you see these teams so many times. Like, we see it down here in Toledo, like, especially when you're playing in a division so much and there's so much divisional travel and so many divisional games. Like, imagine if you get Rockford in the playoffs. Like, if they get Rockford, you're going to play them 8 times over the last 20 games. And then if they have to play them again in the postseason for either 3 or 5 potential games, like, you're going to be so familiar with what each other is doing or is trying to do that, like, if you can make that subtle adjustment to where you can get an advantage for maybe 2 or 3 games in a short series like that, or even 3 or 5, it doesn't sound like 2 games if you go from a 5-game series to a 7-game series, but you add those 2 games, that's a big difference. But if you can figure it out, it's going to make a big difference also.
That's kind of what happened last year. Is like we had so many games against Rockford at the end, and we're like, we're going to end up playing these guys in the playoffs, like first round, second round, and we did.
Yeah, those are going to be really important games because when you're playing division opponents like that, if you start dropping some of those, it's really hard to claw back into that comfortable playoff spot. And that power play piece against that team is concerning because they do currently have the second best penalty kill in the American Hockey League.
Yep, I was just about to say that.
And if they're going to be able to pick apart our team like that, that's going to be rough, man. If they can pick apart this power play and not let us convert, and we can't figure out how to get creative and be able to make those subtle adjustments, that 8-game set is going to be must-watch podcast episodes because I'll probably be screaming about the power play at some point in time. It'll either be the power play or the officiating when it comes to us playing Rockford. So stay tuned for that because it's inevitable at this point.
You know what, as well as the second best team in the league on the power play is? Texas.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple games for our penalty kill that, hasn't been as consistent as we've seen it this season. I've had a lot of faith in what Brian Lashoff has done on the defensive side and the penalty kill side, and usually we see corrections get made pretty quickly, but it's starting to get pretty inconsistent on that side. So hopefully they can figure that out as well, and Texas is going to be a huge test for this team, and it sucks that it's in this stretch of like 4 games in 6 days, including flying to Texas at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning today or yesterday, whatever day it is at this point. I don't know.
Monday.
Time isn't real anymore.
Go down there, win 2 games. I mean, like, you know what? Like, you want to turn your season around or get out of a slump, go down and win 2 big games against a big team.
Yep.
Like, it's funny because, like, like you've said, like, both teams are kind of in a rut right now that we cover. And, like, they both have 2 huge 2-game sets against 2 very good teams within this month. Like, Griffins get it now, Toledo gets it at the end of the month. So, like, you really want to find your way, like, go win 2 meaningful games. Like,
And they have to win them in regulation. I think that's the most important part because the other 2 wins that they've had in the last, what did we say earlier, 10 games, 12 games has been in overtime. So
or shootout, yeah.
Or shootout. You have to win these in regulation.
Central Division doing what it does every year, getting extremely tight and close every freaking year.
If you can come back on an 8-point swing, that's big time.
Huge.
Let's wrap up. Why you got to add another cut for me? Why? Anyways, let's wrap up this week's games with just our 3 stars of the week. And the first star, I think, is the most obvious one. And it's got to be Andre Becker. 2 goals in the game, plus a shootout goal there. It felt like that breakout rookie game that the kid needed to get that confidence going, and you hope he can ride that, especially into these games against Texas. But he gets my first star of the week, 100%.
And he crushed post game. did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He always gets so nervous about it. The language gap doesn't help him there, but I think he did a great job. And he's just such a happy, giggly person that makes it so much more fun. That's why the fans love him already. Like it's such a great kid. Second star of the week, Amadeus Lombardi. 2 points in his first 3 games back. Obviously a massive piece to this team. Speaking really well in the team's loss Wednesday night. Just overall, top to bottom, second star of the week for me easily.
Yeah, I like that. I think even not only were the points important, he had some good plays too on Sunday where he kind of single-handedly like held the guy off at the end of the near my end. I think it was second or third. I think it was second period. Held the guy off and kept the play going, and I thought that was just a strike to see it, especially recently coming back from injury. So I'm good with Ammo being second.
I would say third star of the week, and maybe you guys will object or not. I'm going to go with Austin Watson. 2 assists in Friday's win. The restraint of a Saint for not beating some people's face in Friday night and ending up with a suspension. Overall, I think he had a really good weekend, and I think he's finally finding his flow of what he can and can't do with the risk of that suspension, which we did get clarity on the rule. He didn't get suspended from that fight in Iowa because the other guy was called for an instigating on that one. So it doesn't count towards his total. That's kind of what we thought it would be, but we did get official clarification on that. So he is still one fighting major away from a 1-game suspension. And if he has another one after that, it's a 1 game until he gets to 14. Then it becomes 2 games. So that's how that'll play out for the rest of the regular season here. Once the playoffs come, the gloves are off at that point. That all resets, and we don't got to worry about a suspension there. So I'd say Austin Watson was the third star of the week, but you guys might see differently.
Rap?
I'm going with Mazer.
Okay.
He also had 2 assists, and I think part of it too is just like he's really picked up where he left off. I think that's kind of why I'm kind of going there. He's just playing so well as a whole. Like ever since he's come back, he's got 9 points in 13 games, and he's just got that consistency going, right? Like that's just kind of where I'm at with it. And I mean, I'll give him the third star of the game just for the effort of breaking a stick to make a pass for somebody.
And I mean, think about this too. 2 of these young Red Wings prospects both have big injuries early on in their career here. And look how they've both bounced back. Like we saw Mays the first time he had his injury, and it took him a while to get back going. But you look at this season, both out for long periods of time and just come right back in, guns blazing, like they didn't miss a darn game at all. So yeah, I would agree with that as well too. He could share the third star there with Waddy, and I'm sure Nick's going to give me another guy here.
You know, I like the idea for Watson. He had some good points. He has been kind of finding that balance where he can be aggressive and not go over the line because of the suspension that's looming. I would like to see him play a little bit more aggressive. I like Travis's pick too. I like Mazer because he has been picking up some points, which has been important. You said 9 points in 13 games.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's fantastic. I kind of want to go with Nate Danielson. Just back-to-back games with goals. I think that just him getting more comfortable in the offensive zone and just ripping it. I mean, I think that was huge. People have been kind of on him lately that he just isn't putting up the points right now. And then he comes back and he puts up 2 goals. So I kind of want to go with Nate, but I like the other 2 picks too. But
yeah.
I mean, maybe the viewers will put something in the comments and tell us, who to go with.
Yeah,
I can say Nate. And I didn't get to point this out on his 1 goal. That's very similar to how Austin Matthews shoots the puck.
Yeah, but he also doesn't block Connor McDavid in the slot in an overtime game in best of best hockey. So I don't want that comparison.
No, I'm just saying for the fact that he toe drag into his body, that's a very similar style as to how Matthews scores goals. That's like the first thing when I seen it, and I was like toe drag and shot, and I'm like, man, that's very similar to how he shoots the puck. That's just one thing. I'm not saying like that in a bad way. Like Nate would have definitely had him covered. But
heck yeah, get the Leafs fans upset in the comments. Let's go.
Sorry, Tyler.
Yeah, Ronaldo. Jeez.
Rinaldi's still going through it. Yeah, no, those are good ones there. Honorable mention as well from the weekend to Shai William. He did have 2 assists over this last week as well. They're just continuing playing a solid defensive game and having a fantastic start to his rookie career in the American League. So honorable mention to Shai there. Yeah, it's crazy because we just mentioned, the 3 stars of the week there, and every single one of those players is a young guy on this team, except for Austin Watson. He's an old guy, but at the same time,
Young at heart.
Exactly. We're talking about the production during a rut coming from your youngest players. And that's so crucial when you think about the long term of everything, but especially in the playoffs too. Because there's always the surprise veteran in the playoffs that you just blows the doors down for some reason. You're like, where was this all year? But at the same time, if they can find the balance of veteran scoring and stay consistent with the younger guys scoring too, it's a recipe for a really, really good team. And we've seen this team have veterans carrying the scoring, and you're wondering where the kids are. Now you've got the young kids carrying the scoring. You're wondering what the veterans are doing. The balance will come, and I think that'll come when the team really turns things around here. And if that balance can stay consistent, it's going to be a fun last 20-something games of the season here. So a lot of credit to the young guys in this team for stepping up in a big way.
I hope we're going to have fun. Yeah.
We're going to have fun, and Nick's going to be stressed the entire time. It's going to be great.
I am.
I'm surprised we haven't actually ordered him a panic button and sent it to him yet. I think we need to actually get him one, but he'll probably hit it during the entire show, making my edit miserable. So
Staples doesn't sell a panic button. They sell an easy button.
Well, nothing's come easy for this team lately, so hopefully maybe we can get an easy button down the road. So that is all we have for the game action this week. There is one last piece we wanted to touch on, and we wanted to just send our heartfelt condolences to the family of a young Griffins fan, young hockey player who was in the Fox Motors Hockey Club program and with the 12U girls 2-2 team. It was an unfortunate loss for them. She unfortunately had taken her own life at such a young age, which I can't fathom what that family has gone through. And, obviously a big hockey fan, a hockey player herself. And, the Griffins did a beautiful tribute with the game on Sunday there, since that was the sensory awareness game and the mental health game as well. They did a great thing with it. They had posted a couple of videos online, and they also did something right before the game too. Just an absolutely brutal one to try to grasp that thought there. And what I'll say is, if you or someone is struggling, there's resources out there. Talk to somebody, text 988, reach out to the suicide crisis hotline. But yeah, that's just our heartfelt condolences to her entire family, her friends, her team, and all the fans that knew her. That's just such a tough one to swallow there.
Not something that I was kind of prepared to walk into on Sunday. I saw the Griffins social media team had posted the leaving the sticks out, with the guys all putting their sticks out, which I thought was really good. And then they turned around, and even Iowa, when they did the they went through and honored her with her parents there, and even Iowa was doing stick taps. So I thought that was really classy from their organization to honor that. So
yeah, just a sad one, but wanted to make sure we sent our condolences to that family and their friends in that one. But with that, it is the end of the episode here. We'll wrap this one up. Thank you all for tuning into the show this week. As always, the first episode of the week is a Griffins episode. The second episode of the week is a Toledo one, and we have a ton to talk about in that one after our Saturday adventure down in Toledo. Tons of fun stories to share with you guys. And if you haven't seen some of the clips that we've taken from that day posted on our social media page, would highly recommend going to check them out, including a very energetic Brandon Hawkins after the game. Oh, God, what a guy. But make sure you stay tuned for that. As always, though, we got to thank our sponsors of the show, of course, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST to save a few bucks in your order. It also supports the show. Check out some of the new stuff they've added there. Like I say every week, they're always adding new stuff. And literally, they added 2 new hoodies last week after we had posted the episode saying they always add new stuff. Like, we're not joking. So go check out their site, see what they've got going on, and remember to use code WEST. But of course, on top of the sponsors, the show would not be possible without our Patreon subscribers. And those currently are...
we've got Claire Boughton. We've got Alan, Derek, Elaine, Griffin, John, Lori, Michael, Randy. That's it.
Hey, you didn't forget anyone. Good job. Thank you to everyone over there for supporting the show. If you want to join them, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers we offer. Unedited episodes go there. Exclusive content goes there. We announce interviews there first before anywhere else, so you can get questions in for people when we interview them. And all other sorts of fun stuff we got coming up, even some giveaways, and these nice hats like I'm repping right now will possibly be for sale on there as well. So stay tuned for that, since we finally got our hands on all of them. Thank you again to Travis for setting all that up. We appreciate you, man. But as always, to end the episode off, have a great week, everyone. Go Griffins. Go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod, and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy, and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.